Hi guys, I'm so glad you're able to join us today. To get started, I have a quick summary of what we're going to go over. First, we won't be focusing so much on creating of the toolpaths as we had an event last month with Bo and he covered a lot of the basic toolpath creation. So if you missed it and you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description. Today, I don't know how many of you have watched the TV show Next Level Chef with Dave Ramsey, but that is what I want to help you do, is to take your programming skills to the next level. By showing you a couple ways to catch programming mistakes and issues before they get to the machine and help you to be the top level as a programmer so that you can be one step closer to, as Titan of CNC put it, being that $100,000 machinist. My first example is a part where we had a single part model in a vertical machine and we're using the WCS to program the different sides. I want to show using the stock model and how to bring in the two different vise setups into Verify. My second example, we have a single vise fixture, but we have several parts models mounted around the fixture in a horizontal machine. I'll show how to take the stock model that we created for the main toolpath part, and just like using the transform toolpath to duplicate the main part toolpaths around the fixture, we'll use the stock model stock plane to replicate the stock model up and around the fixture so that we can verify and check all of our transition moves as well. Okay guys, here's my example file for the vertical machine center example. You can see here that I've got some fairly basic toolpaths: face, 2D dynamic, contour, chamfer drill, and model chamfer to cut out the shape of my part. Okay. So I've got that programmed, and just like I would normally go in and verify, I'm gonna come up here to my simulator options, and I want to make sure that I've got my stock setup, pulling my stock setup values that I've got set up in here for my material. And then down here on my fixtures, I want to enable the fixtures, and then I want to pick the fixture that I have saved to a level that represents my fixture for op1. And then this one, I've got it on level 50. Okay. And so when I verify op1 and come into my verify, you can see that it comes in with my vise, and I cut my part. I can hit play and I can see it do everything. And this way it allows me to check my fixture and make sure that I didn't cut across my vise jaws and that I didn't do anything bad to my part, right? So I'm all good with that. So the next step I have is, if you look at my levels, I've got level 51 has my vise for my op2. And you can see that it's oriented on my part just like it would be if I flip this thing over. So if I flip this over, this one is gripping on my stock here, and this one's down on my part. Okay, it's oriented exactly the same way. I'm going to come in here to my view sheet that I've got set up, which is going to set me up with just that visible. And you can see that this one I had to put a longer jaw in there to be able to clamp on the part, or we would have clamped on this radius. So you can see that that vise is separate and different. Okay. The other thing that I have is that I don't have, this is my system origin right here, but that's just where the part was drawn. I actually have the, if you look in my planes here, I've got op1, and that has my WCS set to the center of my stock block, right? Okay, so, and that's set to work offset 0, and that would be 54. So I've got op2 set up here that is the center of this hole, so that I have something good to dial in to match up op1 and op2. And I have that one set to a work offset of 1, which will give me a 55 out in my code. So if I look at my toolpath, I need to take a snapshot of what op1 looked like when it was done with that vise up and I'm ready to flip it over. So I'm gonna do that by creating a stock model. Okay, and you'll find the stock model up here on your toolpaths tab. Over on the far right, you'll find toolpaths, and about a little bit to the right of the middle, you'll find stock model. Okay, and I'm gonna click in here and show you a few things and show you what I had to set up. Okay, so that opened up on that page because I already have one, but normally it'll open up on this page. So I'm going to give it a name. Finished op one, right, or something that means something to me. And so I want to make sure that I'm not going off of any other stock plane. I want that to be top. We'll go over this and how we use it in the next demo, but for this example we want to leave it in top because that's where everything's oriented. We don't want to move it, we don't want to do anything with it. Okay, I've got the stock setup values that'll pull from my stock setup. If I click that button, it'll populate all my buttons and I get that. So that's my basic block shape that I'm starting with. And then I'm going to come over to my source operations, and I want to update that stock model with the toolpaths that are going to cut op one. So I'm going to select all of machine group op one on my toolpath group and pick all that, and then I'm going to green check that, and we'll probably want to go with something other than gray on my color. So we'll click that and we'll generate it. Okay, and it'll take a second and we should see our stock model show up, and it's oriented in my vise with the part I was clamping on up so that we can deck that off, and we're all good to go. So I'm going to come up here to my verify options again here. I'm going to select that, and instead of stock setup, I want to come down and I want to use a stock model, and this one I'm going to call op one finished, right? And I also want to switch what level I'm using for my fixture, and this one will be 51, which is a vise op 2. I'm going to green check that, and I'm going to select all of machine group, toolpath group 2, and I'm going to hit my verify button. And you'll see that that will come in with the modified jaw that's bigger and my part oriented, flipped upside down, ready for machining in op 2. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play. You'll see that it decked that off. Ooh. And if you look real close, that I can see that little model chamfer toolpath that I had in there for breaking that edge and deburring my part, and we're all good. Okay, so that's how I would set up multiple vise fixtures in my simulation on in a VMC with a single part model. Okay, so we'll bail out of that, and we're going to hop over here to my other tool, Mastercam. And in here, I've got quite a bit of tool paths. Mainly what I've got here, let's turn off our backplot line so that we can see this. This is my main part file for op 1, and this is my main part file for op 2. Okay, so this is where all my tool paths are associated. These other models are just there for visual, so I can see where those models are, do any analyzing that I need to do, and that kind of stuff. So I can delete these things and they wouldn't be there and it wouldn't matter. Okay. So I've created a whole bunch of stock models just like we did in the vertical machining center example. This is going to be just a little bit different. Like we're using our tool plane as front. So in a normal HMC horizontal machining center, we always want top looking down the tombstone because that's what the B axis rotates about, and that's where Mastercam's always based off of top, right? That's where it's gotta stay there. Okay, there are some posts that are set up a little differently, but sometimes that gets a little more complicated. And so I prefer to program this way. And you can just use the plane that works for your post setup. Okay. So the first thing I need to do is I need to set up my stock for that first operation. And I've got my stock setup values plugged in here, and that's what's creating that stock right there. And if I go into, let's get back up here, and if I go into the parameters of that stock, you can see that I called it lower stock, up one lower stock, and it's still using that top plane just like we did in the VMC. Okay, no different. I've got it selected as orange, and this is the stock model I get. Okay, so now we need to move this stock and duplicate it up onto this one. Okay, and so what we do is if I came in here and I have some planes created, right? So I'm using top as my WCS, but that's all I'm using it for. And so I've got a couple toolpaths here that I've got one levels that I've planes, sorry, that I've created here that I'm using to move that stock around. Okay, and so if I look at this one I've got called here op1 upper stock move, you'll see that I have from my top plane, that's at the top of my tombstone here is where top is, and then I've come down here to my stock move up, and you'll see that the origin's up in the air, and that is that distance. So if I come back here to turn this off, if I analyze the distance from the center of this circle to the center of this circle, you'll see that I got 3 inches and 5/8 of an inch, right? So if you look at the plane that I've got here, and if we analyze it, that is the Z shift that I've done there. That's going to cause that stock model to move when I use that plane. So if I pop into the parameters of my stock model on this one, and I look, I've got my stock plane set as the upper one, op1 upper stock move, right? So that's what pulls that stock model up into that position. Everything else, I haven't done anything else in here besides that, and it's based off of the stock model that I generated down here, so that's why I've pulled it rather than from the rectangle. I've pulled it from the lower stock. So whatever this one looks like, this one is a duplicate of it. Okay. All right, so we've got 2 stock models and we're all good. So now we need to rotate these 2 stock models over onto this side. Okay, and so we're going to do that, and exactly like we did in the translation of moving in Z, we're going to just spin it around the Z axis 180 degrees. So if I come in here and look at lower up one lower stock rotation, and you can see up here on my thing that from my top plane, my X and my Y are oriented to the right, and on my lower stock rotation, they're now pointed the opposite direction, 180 degrees. And now we've got the upper stock, so this is the lower one on the other side, and this one is the upper, so that's the upper one. So this is just a combination of doing the rotation along with that Z shift move of 3 inches, 625 thou. And you will see that when we've come in here to these stock models, that's all we've done is selecting, it's still that lower stock, so it's still off this base one right here, and we're just picking the lower stock 180 rotation, and this one is pulling the upper stock 180 rotation. Same thing. So now I've got stock models for these 4 locations. Okay, now this other next one is a little bit trickier. Okay, so what we notice is that we have our part they're rotated 90 degrees, but they're also rotated about the other axis 90 degrees. So we're doing two rotations of 90 degrees in, so about Z and then about, I think it's about X or Y, okay? And we need to pay attention that we get this hole mounted in its upward location, so it's up, right? So we'll start by doing a few things that we need to do. And I'm gonna create a new stock model here so that I can kind of walk through this setup with you. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is create this lower finish stock. So this is what it looks like after Op1 has ran. So I've taken all these tool paths except for the transforms. So if you look at this one, I've got it, this one's called lower finished. It's going off the rectangular stuff. I mean, I could pick lower stock, it would be the same difference. And I've picked all of the tool paths in here that are for Op1 without the transforms, because I could pick them, but it would just add generation time that's not doing anything for my stock model. So I'm going to bail out of that one, and this is what I've got. It's drilled the holes and it's cut the outside, and we've cut this little slot that we wouldn't be able to reach when we're on Op2. Okay, so now I've got my Op1 finished, so I'm done there. Now I need to create my planes, and I need to rotate and translate the part around. Okay, so if I come in here to my planes and I do another duplicate of top, so I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one example. So that's what I'm doing, right? So that's my thing, and I know for a fact that I need to rotate this thing, right? But I need to rotate it clockwise because I need to be on the left-hand side of the vise so that my holes are oriented in the correct rotation. I mean, because naturally you would want to rotate it over here, but that would have the holes facing the machined finish side, right? So that would be the wrong rotation. So I'm going to come in here and edit this, and the first thing I need to do is rotate 90 degrees this way, right? So that it's over on the left side of my vise. And I'm going to go okay. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to create a stock model. And we're going to do, I'm going to call it example. And we're going to pick the stock model as lower finished. Okay. And we're going to pick that stock plane that's example. Right. Okay. So we're going to generate that thing, and you'll notice that it whipped it around over on the left side. Now, if that's all we needed to do, this would be pretty easy, because then I just have to translate it, the distance from this edge of my stock to the vise jaw, and I could do an analyze and figure out what that would need to be. But we need to rotate this 90 degrees the other way, right? And so we need this little groove needs to be on the bottom side of the part over here. So I need to rotate it so that that is facing down. So I'm going to come back into my plane, into my example, and I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to just take the green arrow here, the green circle, grab hold of that, and I'm going to rotate that down 90 degrees. And I'm going to say, okay. Now if I come back to my stock model example, it went dirty because I changed my stock plane and I regenerate it. And now, because of the double rotation, that puts it way over here in what feels like La La Land. But I've got the slot down on the bottom, and so my holes are facing what would be the correct location for this direction. Now I just need to figure out how to move it in my X and Y and Z to get it down to that spot. So, and the easiest way I've found to do that is to analyze. But you'll notice that this isn't geometry. This isn't something I can analyze. And so, what I've found is the easiest is to, create a jump plane, a level here or something. So we'll call it 200. Leave it. I don't need to name it because we're going to get rid of it. But I'm going to come up here to my stock model options, and I'm going to drop this down. And there's the convert to mesh. So it's going to take that stock model and it's going to convert it to a mesh file. And that one I can analyze from. And it's going to do it to whatever stock model I've got picked here in my plane. So I'm going to convert that to mesh. I'm going to turn off my stock model there. And now I've got a model that I can select and analyze. Analyzing vertices on a mesh is a little bit finicky and trying to get that. And so what I want to do is I want to create a curve on this edge. And if you analyze this curve, if there's any properties, you'll notice that it's a spline. So I'm going to simplify this down to an arc so that I have something good that I can analyze. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pick simplify spline and green check that. Now when I analyze him, I get an arc, and that's good for me to be able to measure. Okay, so we need to make sure that our C and T plane are up here on top, otherwise our analyzing measurements will be about the wrong axis. So make sure that you're on C and T plane top before we do this. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do an analyze distance, and I'm going to do it from the center of that arc, and I'm going to come down here to my lower example of where I need it to be, and I'm going to select that. And these numbers are what I need to plug into my plane rotation. So if I come in here to plane and I come to example and I say edit, I'm going to just copy these numbers over. So 7.251 and minus 7.9738 and minus 9.02. Okay, I'm green check that, fail out of there, and we're going to go into our plane and regenerate that. Analyze the wrong hole. That number didn't seem like the number I remember. I analyzed the bottom hole. So analyze distance and grab the center of that arc again. And we're going to grab the center of that arc. This is the C number that I need. So planes, hit it, and that's the number I want. So green check, and there, and reanalyze. And I promise you're not going to get it right the first time or the third or the fourth, right? It's going to take, you're going to rotate it the wrong way, you're going to do something, and you just got to just go back and check yourself and analyze yourself. But you'll eventually get it into the right spot. I made it look easy because I've done this like 5 times prepping for this example. But that's what I did there. And so now we're going to just repeat the same exact things that we did for the first one, and we're going to translate it up that 3 inches, 625 thou up, and we'll get a stock model that's that one. For this one that I created, that was the example, and the one over here, and then we'll rotate it and we'll get it on the other side. Now when you do another rotation, that's going to throw off your X and Y Z coordinates, so you're going to have to save it out as another mesh and then analyze that distance and put in your new X, Y, Z coordinates, because the rotation happens first and then the X, Y, Z coordinate translation. So get your rotation, get it oriented correctly, then move it in place. Okay, so I don't need this example anymore. delete that guy. And so now I've got models for all 8 sides, right? And get rid of this guy, I don't need him. Okay, so now we're going to come back to what we showed, coming up to my simulator options. You'll notice that I can only pick one stock model even though I've got 8. Right? So that's a problem. So what I want to do is, now that I've got all my stock models in the right location, I'm going to save these back out as a mesh on my level. So I've got a level set up here, and it's called stock model mesh. And when I select these and come up and say, convert to mesh, I'm going to save out each one of these stock models, and I'm going to end up with these mesh files. If I turn everything off, you can see that that's what I end up with. It's these stock models that show me op1 and op2 and everything. Now I'm going to come down here, and I've got the stock model that I want to start this toolpath, this verification with, and I've called it full array stock, right? So in there, I have, when I select model, I can grab all 8 of those mesh models of my stock and what they look like at that point for them. Okay, and now when I come up here and do my, so I'm going to select op1 and I'm going to select op2. I'm going to come up here and do my verify simulation options, and I've got it set to stock model, and I want to pick full array stock, and I've got my Kurt vise on level 100, and I've got that fixture turned on. So now when I come up here into my verify, you'll see that it populates my vise in there with all of my stock models, and I can say, I'm going to speed this up a little bit here, and I'm going to start seeing this verify my part. And so far so good. Everything's looking good. We're working by tool change, so we're doing all of this tool change and then going back around. But there it is. There's my gouge, right? So it was doing something here, and then it rotated to go to the other side, and it just mowed right through my part. Okay, so now I can come back here and troubleshoot where my issue is, and I found that it was right here, and these 4 contours right here that was cutting. Let's turn on my level of my part. It was cutting these slots, and then when we did our transform, that moved it up to this one, and then we did the rotation transform, and we went around the outside, and you can see that was that angled dogleg move. This is straight, but my machine actually doglegged, which my simulation showed, and it went right through this part. So, and when if you come back and watch our April 13th demo with Brian Gleason, he'll go over the multi-axis stuff, and I hope you'll join with that. But I use the multi-axis link toolpath here, which created me a little bit better of a transition move here. And so if I come in here to my transform, and instead of picking 51 through 54, I use that multi-axis link, which joins all 4 of them together. So I'm going to just come in here and pick multi-axis link. It's going to generate. I'll generate this one, and that's going to dirty a stock model at the bottom that I have that shows me all of it done. So I need to regen that one so I can get a screenshot of what it looks like without going into verify. And we'll pick all of block 1 and all of block 2. And go into our verify. And it'll recalculate and start over. And we play through this. See if we fixed our gouge. There we go. So that cleaned up our gouge, and then we solved our gouge problem. We were able to catch it before we got to the machine and saw a problem. All right. So I hope that, I know it was a little quick and I breezed through some stuff. We'll have a little bit of a Q&A here at the end, but we want to kind of keep it a little bit high level. We don't really get into too much of the weeds. But I hope that you will get done here and go sign up for Brian Gleason's event for April 13th and join him for the multi-axis webinar, and hope to see you next time.